let's do the right thing here. And who is that voice? I don't know that. Who's the voice for the student athletes? But you got the organizations, you know, that are really fighting for their share and their piece. And it's time to share.
That was Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh endorsing the idea of sharing revenue with student athletes. That's what's going to be our spotlight tonight. The NCAA on Thursday taking the next step toward making NCAA President Charlie Baker's idea to create a new subdivision in which schools directly pay athletes a reality. Baker said he wants to create a new tier of Division I sports for highly resourced schools that would require them to offer at least half of their athletes a payment of at least $30,000 per year through a trust fund. There's also a proposal allowing all Division I schools to offer unlimited educational benefits and to enter into name, image, and likeness licensing deals with student athletes. Let's bring back our panel, John, Christina, and joining us now is ABC News contributor and Sirius XM radio host Mike Muse, and ABC News contributor and op-ed columnist for the Los Angeles Times, LZ Granderson. Thanks all so much for being here. John, let's start with you. Should these student athletes get their fair share for winning the championship games, for drawing these crowds to the school, which of course then in turn makes millions of dollars off of them?
Well, I think when they passed these rules, the NCAA, decades and decades ago, they didn't have the March Madness tournament generating $1 billion a year. They didn't have bowl games and TV contracts for conferences that are generating astronomical amounts. So yeah, I think if a kid wants to have enough money to have a pizza on a Friday night, I think that's okay. But I think the way that's shaking out in this proposal that's a little concerning is becomes colleges that are the haves and the have-nots. If you're a certain level, you get to pay your kids, so therefore all the good kids are going to go to those schools, and then the schools that can't, it just seems a little bit unfair there. But make no mistake, this is another seismic shift. There's going to be several more in the next few years with college sports. There's just way too much money, and where it ends up is God knows, but it's going to be a lot more changes like this coming.
A whole nother tier of schools almost could emerge. Christina, are these student athletes, is it a conflict of interest for them to be getting paid like they're in the pros?
Absolutely not. It's not a conflict. I mean, these schools and companies are making hundreds of millions of dollars, and there's a component you can't have within a game. You can't have a game without players. And these young players, especially when you talk about football, could be injured, have CTE, serious injuries happen to them, and then be out of the game and never be able to even have a full career. They deserve their fair share. And I think the $30,000 being offered is not going to be the end, because you had the Michigan coach last week saying the players need to unionize. I think we could even see college athletes unionizing and demanding even more.
Wow, that's a big point. Mike, I'm going to go to you. You're a big Michigan fan. I know we've been seeing it all over you. You know, are the #1 fan that I've seen, at least. What are your thoughts? Should they unionize, first of all? But is this a problem that some of these big schools with the big money, like Michigan, are the ones that are going to benefit the most?
So one, I'll answer your first part first. Yes, they should unionize. I actually think $30,000 is too low. And just as Coach Harbaugh said, that there is no one at the table representing these athletes. As these bills go through the halls of Congress right now, you have no student representation arguing on what they should be receiving within these proposed congressional bills that have been drafted for conversation purposes. Let me give you some sobering numbers to begin this, so we can put away this discourse that these are scholarship athletes and they should be happy to receive an education that is there. Elizabeth, if we look at next year's playoff system, we're going to go to 12 teams. The national championship game is going to be played at the end of January. Well, the University of Michigan this year, the second semester started January the 8th. So you mean it's telling me you're going to have those athletes going and traveling on the road, trying to vie for a national championship game, over 30 million people watching them per game once you get to the playoffs? Do we really think they're going to be studying Shakespeare, calculus, and English and chemistry into the end of January? Or are they going to be reading playbooks to win because the Big Ten writes $7 billion for 7 years. The top 25 coaches make a range from $6.3 million to $11 million. This is no longer about education. This is about big business. These student athletes deserve a right to the piece of that pie, as they're dedicated and giving up their bodies for people's entertainment.
And that is some serious money. LG, where do you stand on this? Is it a slippery slope to have these students getting what could be a salary, you know, for their education?
You know, slippery slope. That's That is a really interesting, conversation to start off with, because the slippery slope actually began when Notre Dame left the conferences to go out and get its own money from NBC. That's where all this began. It began with Notre Dame deciding we're going to go out and get our own. And so then the universities outside of Notre Dame started doing the same thing. Coaches started doing the same thing. And of course, the students are going to follow. It's a chain reaction. And this idea that Jim Harbaugh is up there saying, who's there for the students? No one's there for the students. You are supposed to be there for the students. You're tenured. You're supposed to be advocating for the students. Why are you acting as if someone's not there? You're supposed to be there, but you weren't there because it benefited you. So let's stop pretending as if we didn't know the numbers already that Mike quoted. We know those numbers. Give Chris Webber an apology. Give Reggie Bush back his Heisman, and let's stop pretending as if this was anything other than a business.
You want to respond to that, Mike?
Just to defend Coach Harbaugh is talking about he is supportive of these student athletes being paid. He's talking about making sure that there's representation for the student athletes to be at the negotiation table to determine how much they're going to make per year. Dude, you always interrupt me. I always give you time to interrupt, LZ. Please be respectful in the conversation, sir. So what happens is when you go to you still are talking. Don't say dog, sir. So also, too, in the Capitol Hills of Congress, that's what he means by having representations of the unions there for them as Congress is debating these bills.
All right, Mike and LZ, I'm going to let you guys take this one offline. We're gonna wrap this one here. You guys can keep chatting on your own time. Have that spirited debate.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.